What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film. As you can tell by the title, we are ranking 10 different sci-fi franchises today. This is gonna be a long video. We got a lot of movies to rank, so I'm gonna make this intro nice and quick and to the point. But before I do, I just want to say what is up to all my new subscribers out there. Thanks for joining the pack and hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to smash that like button while you're here. And if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content so far, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It's another way to help out the channel, get this video out to more people. All right, so earlier, a while back, I had done a ranking video where I took 10 action franchises and I went in and I ranked all the movies within those 10 action franchises. You can go find that video out in the archives. I think it's in the ranking playlist. And in that video, I kind of pitched the idea that I would do a sci-fi version of that. So this is what that is. This is ranking all the movies within 10 different sci-fi franchises. So if you're a sci-fi fan, hopefully this content will be fun for you. Before I get into the actual ranking, I just want to preface it with just a few disclaimers up front. One disclaimer is just a reminder that this is just my opinion, guys. This is just my ranking on this movie. There's no reason, no need to be upset or offended by anything that I have to say or by any positioning of certain films on this list. If you feel like a certain movie should be higher or a certain movie should be lower, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to share your list if you would like, but just don't come at me with hate comments about how my list is wrong. My list isn't wrong. This is my list. All right, you can share your thoughts in the comment section. All I ask that you be respectful about it and we can have adult conversations there. But yeah, this is just a reminder. No need to be upset or offended. Secondly, there were a couple of franchises that this was first time for me. A first go around with a couple of these franchises. So I didn't grow up with a couple of these franchises, watching them. This was my first time watching a couple of these franchises. So you may be a big fan of, a certain franchise on this list, and they might do a lot more for you emotionally than they did for me because I came to them for the first time in my 30s. So yeah, that's just another disclaimer. And then lastly, I want to say that base these rankings on my 3 criteria for rating a film, which are the technical qualities, the technical side of filmmaking, how well made is the movie, the rewatch value, how well does it hold up on rewatches? Do I have an urge to come back to the movie a lot? Is it a movie that thinking about it makes me want to go back and watch it again? That's rewatch value. And then the third criteria is the emotional effect that it has on me. Did it move me in some way? And I take those 3 criteria, I average things out, and I have an overall rating that I give the film. So that's the basis of how I come up with these ratings and this overall ranking. All that out of the way, it's time. Let's get into ranking all these movies. A lot of movies to rank, guys. We got a total of 74 movies. I got my list just over here to my left. So if you see me looking this way, that's what I'm doing. Some of these could change. A lot of these movies have the same rating. So on any given day, a couple of these could flip. But this is how it looks as of right now today. All right, we're going to start from the bottom, work our way to the top as always. Here we go. Hope you enjoy this video. All right, so starting at the bottom, number 74 on my list, we have Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. This is a 1-star film for me. I hate this film with a passion. I saw this movie in theaters, and honestly, I was very hesitant about seeing it in theaters, and I wish I would have listened to my inner intuition telling me don't see this movie. But I went against the better judgment and I went and watched this movie, and I can typically sit through anything. Like even if a movie is really bad, I can usually find enough strength, internal strength to just soldier up and push through it and finish the movie. This film, I was this close to walking out of the theater during this movie. That's how upset I was. That's how angry I was. That's how hurt I was by this movie. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Star Wars is my baby. I've grown up as a big Star Wars fan. I cherish the Star Wars universe. And for me personally, the decisions that they make in Rise of Skywalker absolutely just completely emasculate what the original Star Wars story was about. And it just completely undoes the sacrifice that we get in Return of the Jedi. It undercuts the whole meaning and purpose of that original trilogy, and I would say 6 films, entire Skywalker saga. It completely just spits a big fat loogie all over those movies and all over those characters and all over the story in those movies. So to me, this movie is just garbage. I have seen it, I think, one other time since seeing it in theaters, and I hated it even more. So my view on this one hasn't changed. This is easily, in my opinion, the worst Star Wars movie. It is competently made as far as the quality end of it. It is competently made. But the hatred that I have emotionally of this film and the lack of any rewatch value to it at all brings this movie down to a 1-star film overall. So there you go. Rise of Skywalker, the bottom of the list for me, number 74. Coming in at number 73, we have Men in Black International. I think this was from 2019, maybe somewhere around there. It's the newest Mission Impossible, the newest Men in Black, one with Chris Hemsworth and I forget the actress name who plays alongside him. Yeah, I didn't like this movie, guys. It's a 1.5-star movie. I don't think it did anything for the franchise. I don't think it was needed. It didn't tell a story that I cared about. I didn't really invest with the characters. Chris Hemsworth is, he's entertaining. He's fun. And I guess, there's some cool visual effects to it, I guess, which is what gives it 1.5 star. And I don't necessarily have like a hatred of this movie like I do for Rise of Skywalker. So it doesn't really have any like negative emotion to it from me. It's just not a movie I like at all. It's not a movie I care about. I'm never gonna go back and rewatch this movie again. I'm just not. And I don't think it told a story that was needed. It told a story that was moving in any way. And I didn't invest in the characters at all. So Men in Black International is number 73. Coming in at 72, we have Beneath the Planet of the Apes. This is the worst of the Planet of the Apes movies, in my opinion. This was the second one, the sequel to the original Planet of the Apes. And this is just a bad film, man. They totally they missed the mark with this one for sure. There's definitely potential to, pursue a few ideas from the first movie and how that first movie ended and where they left off. Like, there's definitely potential to pursue a few ideas from that. I just think the direction they chose to go here was just not a good direction. We get Charlton Heston for like 2 minutes of the film before he gets killed off. And honestly, he's a big part of what makes that first movie really good for me. And he's just in this movie for like 2 minutes. I don't think the story is very well written. I don't think the script is well written. There's a lot of like plot holes and questionable decisions that don't really make much sense. And I don't think it's a good film. I don't think the effects hold up as well. It doesn't have the rewatch value. Just not a good film at all. And it's sad from how good that original Planet of the Apes was. And you're going to see that movie a lot higher on this list for me. How good that movie was to just follow it up with a turd like Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, wasn't very good. So Beneath the Planet of the Apes, my number 72. Again, 1.5 star film. Moving into number 73, we have Alien 3. This was the one directed by David Fincher. Now, I will just preface this one by saying I have not seen the assembly cut of Alien 3. I haven't seen the director's cut. I've only ever seen the theatrical version of this movie. I have heard from people that I know and trust that the assembly version is quite a bit better. I think Brian Lomax, he actually likes the assembly cut quite a bit more than the theatrical cut. So maybe if I saw that version, this movie would be quite a bit higher. I don't know. But just going off the theatrical version, I don't think this is a very good movie. I know a lot of people have Alien Resurrection as the worst of the Alien films. I would disagree. I think Alien 3 is worse than Resurrection for a number of reasons, primarily because aesthetically, there's just nothing pleasing to look at in this movie. I don't like the production design. I don't like the cinematography. The characters don't cut it for me. They're not likable characters. They're a bunch of criminals held up in this prison on another planet. They don't really have any redeeming arc in the film or redeemable qualities. The only reason they're fighting the aliens is because that's really their only option. It's not because they're courageous, good people that have this moral turnaround to their characters. It's literally they have to fight them, or just die. And a lot of them even, cowardiceness and choose to, not even stand and fight. So characters don't cut it for me. Aesthetically, it's not visually pleasing at all. I don't like the look of some of the effects work here. Don't hold up very well at all for me. I don't think Ripley is used well. She doesn't really resemble the Ripley that we know from the first two. Yeah, some of the decisions that she makes, it's not consistent with who that character had already been established to be in the first two films. So yeah, I don't like Alien 3, man. I don't think it holds up well. The thing that keeps it higher than the ones that are below it so far is I do think what happens in the third act of this film with Ripley actually has some meaning to it. There is an emotional, kind of payoff there, and there's a pretty strong Christ allegory in there as well. So I do think that the end of this film, they land that ending, they stick that ending, but the other hour and a half leading up to that doesn't really work for me. So yeah, Alien 3, 1.5 star film. Again, the worst of the Alien franchise, and it's number 71. Moving into number 70, we have the worst of the Terminator movies, which is, of course, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Yes, the Terminator movie that should have never been made. Honestly, when you do a Terminator and you follow it up with Terminator 2 Judgment Day, that's all you need, bro. Like, you ought not touch that. Leave it be, my friend. Leave it be. And so I'm not really a fan of them even making a franchise out of the Terminator movies. I think 1 and 2 should just be standalone national treasures. But unfortunately, we got Rise of the Machine. Now, I will say, I do think this movie has some things going for it. Now, don't hear that as me saying this is a good film. It's a bad film. It's a really bad film. It's the worst of the Terminator movies. And it's number 70 on a movie of 74 movies. So it's not a good movie. But I do think it's got a couple of things going for it in the action that I think moves pretty well. Some cool action sequences for me. I love seeing Arnie on screen again, the T-800. So yeah, I don't hate this movie as much as my friend Brian Lomax does. This would easily be Brian's number 74, I'm quite sure. This is still a 1.5 star film for me. Not very good, but I have a little bit better of a time with it than the movies below it. So yeah, Terminator 3 is my number 70. Coming in at number 69, we have Alien vs. Predator 2 Requiem. The second of the AVP movies. We're going up a tier to 2-star movie level now. I do think this is a 2-star film. It's not a very good movie, but I wouldn't go as far as saying this is just garbage. I don't think it's garbage, but I also don't think it's very good, primarily because you can't really see it. Like, it's a very dark movie. Not dark like ethically or morally or philosophically, but dark, visually dark. The cinematography here is horrible. The lighting is horrible. The exposure is horrible. It's just really bad cinematography in this movie. Now, if you can get around that, or if you're in a movie where you're in a setting where you just turn all the lights off and you can actually see what's going on, I do think there is some stuff there to latch onto, to be entertained by. I do think the story is decently, competently put together. Some things that I think they do better with the alien creatures in this one than in the first one. So yeah, if you can get around the lack of any light to this movie, it kind of works. But for me, it's just that aesthetics of this film and that just visual presentation. I'm not going to come back to this movie very often. I've seen it a few times. Don't really care for it, just because, again, I'm having to focus so much on trying to make out what's actually happening on screen, because it just due to the horrible cinematography of this movie. So Alien vs. Predator Requiem is my number 69. Coming at number 68, we have Star Wars The Force Awakens. You can probably gather at this point, I'm not a big fan of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. This one kind of has some of the problems that Rise of Skywalker has as far as the decision making goes. I think I hate the fact that they made certain decisions in this movie that they made, which I think really hurt the franchise and really kind of go against everything that original run of Lucasfilms were about. We have Rey, for example, a girl that has never trained a day in her life, be able to pick up a lightsaber and outduel Kylo Ren, who would be equivalent to a Sith Lord who has been training since he was a kid, and he gets his ass whipped by a girl that's never trained a day in her life. I don't make the rules. That's what happened. Take it up with J.J. Abrams. Take it up with the writers of this film. That's what happened. And to me, that just, again, it may not be a big deal to some people, but when you're a massive Star Wars fan like I am, and you're a fan of the characters, and you appreciate the training requirement that goes into becoming a Jedi or becoming a Sith, it's not something that you just happens overnight. You just pick up a lightsaber and be like, all right, I'm going to be a Jedi today. No, there's actually long periods, years of training that you have to undergo, learning how to use a lightsaber, learning how to use the Force, learning the ways of the Sith, or learning the ways of the Jedi. And for them to just be like, no, screw all that, where everything that you know about Jedis no longer applies. We're making a whole new set of rules. We're going to have Rey just be able to kick Kylo's butt in the first film, even though she's never trained in her life. Also greatly diminishing the threat of your villain, Kylo Ren. Like, how weak does that make Kylo look? Like, this is supposed to be the antagonist of this trilogy. This is supposed to be the Vader of this trilogy. And you introduce him by making him look really freaking soft and really freaking weak in this movie, by having him lose to a girl that's never trained a day in her life. So yeah, I don't buy Kylo as a villain. I think he's incredibly weak. I don't really care all that much about Rey. Finn is incredibly annoying. Why he's even in this movie, I don't know. He adds nothing to the film. If you take his character out, it changes nothing in the movie. I'm not a fan of this movie. I don't like how they kill off Han. There's a lot of issues that I have with, visually speaking. I do think J.J. Abrams does a good job in his directing of the movie. I think some of the performances were still pretty good for the most part. It's a well-made movie, crafted, put together for the most part. I think it suffers in the writing, but in the directing and the acting, I do think it's there. And it also doesn't have quite the level of hatred from me that Rise of Skywalker has. And I also find it a little bit more rewatchable. Like, Rise of Skywalker is not rewatchable at all. Force Awakens, not very rewatchable, but it is slightly rewatchable. Like if I had to sit down and watch this movie again, I could bring myself to get through it. I saw it in theaters. when it came out. I was really excited about it, but then very let down after I left the theater. But yeah, there you go. Force Awakens is my number 68. Coming in at number 67, we have Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. This is probably the biggest hot take of this video. This was my first time coming to the Star Trek franchise. I'd never seen the TV show. I'd never seen any of the series. So this was literally my first go around with anything Star Trek. And I gotta say, I'm not really a fan of that original run of movies. I may be the only person that doesn't really like that original series of movies because they seem to be the ones that are just beloved by everybody. I'm not a fan of them, really. And this was the worst of the initial 5 or 6 in that original run. To me, okay, I know this one is beloved by so many people. I don't really see what's so great about this movie. I find it incredibly boring. I had to force myself to stay awake through this movie. It's just the pacing was horrible. I got bored a number of times through the movie. I didn't buy the antagonist at all. To me, he just seemed like one of those angry high school kids that is upset because he got embarrassed on the track field by losing to a guy that he feels he should have beat. Like the whole plot of this movie is just Khan wanting to try to one up Captain Kirk because he's upset that he got beat by their little, conflict years prior. And now he's just, I want to beat you. I'm going to spend my whole life trying to beat Captain Kirk to prove that I'm better than him. What are we, 5 years old? Like, come on, dude. To me, the plot was just cheesy. It was dumb. I didn't care about the character. I didn't like the performance. I thought the acting was too much over the top. I don't care for William Shatner. To me, the best thing that William Shatner ever gave us was his face that was later used as the mask of Michael Myers. That's the best thing that he ever gave us, not anything Star Trek. I don't think he's a very good actor. The delivery of his lines always comes across like he's trying to be really seductive or charming. Like when you listen to him talk, he's always like, Spock, what are we gonna do about the Enterprise? Oh, the Enterprise is in trouble. We gotta go rescue the Enterprise. What are we gonna do about the Enterprise? Like it's never believable. It's never convincing. I don't. I'm not a William Shatner guy. I don't care for his version of Captain Kirk. Now the Chris Pine version of Captain Kirk, I love. You're going to see all 3 of those movies much higher on this list. His version of Captain Kirk I love, but William Shatner as Captain Kirk, I don't care for. I don't care about Spock. To me, he's just a very mundane, boring character. He's got no personality to him. So when he RIPs at the end, it does nothing for me. It's got no emotional weight to it. I don't care, that he dies because I don't care about the character. I don't really invest with any of the characters in this movie. While I don't really care for any of the original Star Trek films, this is the one that bores me the most. This is the one that has, I think, the least believable plot or conflict between the hero and villain, and to me just is the one I just least care about. So there you go. That's a hot take. I know I'm gonna get a lot of pushback for that, but what can you do? You like what you like, right? So yeah, Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan, 2-star film. It is still pretty competently made, good production design, good costumes, makeup, all that stuff. So that's my number 67. Coming in at number 66, we have The Hunger Games Part 5, The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. A movie that a lot of people don't even know exists. A lot of people just know the original 4 Hunger Game movies. They did make a 5th one. It came out pretty recently called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Not a very good film. I didn't really invest with much of the characters. I don't think this movie was really even needed for the franchise, for the saga. And yeah, I just didn't have a very good experience with it. So Hunger Games Part 5 is, again, 2-star film. There's some good stuff that they do on the technical side of things, but from a story and character investment, not really there for me. So that's number 66. Number 65, I have the worst of the Transformer movies, which is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. The most recent Transformers movie, also a 2-star film. A movie that, again, it's one of those movies I don't feel was needed. We didn't advance the saga really in any meaningful way. We didn't really learn anything about these characters that we didn't already know or that we needed. It just kind of rehashed things that they've done for 6 movies prior. I didn't really care about the new group of Transformers. Yeah, there was also quite a bit of filler in there for me as well. I think you could cut out a lot of the runtime and nothing really changes. So yeah, Rise of the Beast, 2-star film, number 65 for me. Coming in at number 64, we have Predators, also a 2-star film. I think this is the worst of the Predator movies for me. For me, I do like Adrian Brody. I think he's a good actor. He's solid. But this movie, for me, for one, it's got a lot of plot holes, a lot of conveniences in the film. A lot of asks. Like there's a lot of things that they're really asking me to buy in this movie that I don't know that I got the wallet for. I don't know that my wallet can hold the cheddar that this movie is asking me to spend to buy into what they're selling me in this movie. It's also just not as entertaining to me as the other films, basically because I don't invest with the characters or the story as much as the other Predator movies. So for me, this was the worst of the Predator movies. Still 2-star film. I'm in at number 63. We have Men in Black 2, sequel to the first one. It's got some things going for it. There's definitely moments of humor in it that work. I think having Tommy Lee Jones as this retired postman and just these, really short khaki shorts showing off his old ass legs. Yeah, there's some funny stuff in it for sure. Has its moments, but again, from a plot standpoint, plot is tension. And, tension building, plot building, story building, it just doesn't really come together for me. So Men in Black 2, while it is mildly entertaining, has some moments of humor that work, still not a movie that I really enjoy that much. Coming in at number 62, we have The Matrix Revolutions, the worst of the Matrix movies, and the third of the original trilogy, and I think the weakest of the 3. There's visual effects here that don't hold up as well. Plot is really weak. I think the Wachowski brothers got too focused on just putting in a lot of action that they didn't really flush out the story that well. They didn't really flush out the characters that well. This movie also just didn't really lack any meaningful message to it. Didn't really have much to say. It didn't really advance the characters in any way. We didn't really learn anything new about these characters. Some of the rules that they kind of pursued didn't really make much sense when you just think through it logically. It's just kind of a messy film for me, and not one that I really enjoyed all that much. So Matrix Revolutions is my number 62. Coming in at number 61, we have Alien Resurrection. So this is a 2.5-star film. And I'll just say, typically Alien Resurrection is the one I see at the bottom of most people's list when they talk about the Alien franchise. And I understand why that is. This is not a good film, but I also don't think it's a bad film either. This is a 2.5-star film for me. So it's kind of decent. It kind of just falls in that decent, tier for me. I do think it's got some things going for it. I like the tension building with the aliens is much better handled in this one than it is in Alien 3. I actually care more about the characters in this one than I care about the characters in Alien 3. These characters actually show some likable qualities to them. I like some of the visual effects here. look pretty cool. The underwater stuff when they're having to swim away from the aliens and escape through the little pod up top. There's some cool stuff here that they do. I don't think it's as bad as what a lot of people make it out. Is it a good film? No. Does it have issues? Absolutely. But I also don't think it's the worst of the franchise. So, and I do think it actually has, I think there's some stuff going on philosophically there. I think there's, a little bit of a deeper message there behind the curtain. So, Alien Resurrection, 2.5-star film. It's my number 61. Coming in at number 60, we have Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. A movie that's just kind of decent. I can respect it for the competency of the film, from, the technical side of things. It is competently made. You can see the effort put into the film. I can respect all of that. I appreciate all that. I think it moves along at a little bit better pacing for me than Wrath of Khan does. I'm not as bored with it as I am with Wrath of Khan. The plot feels a little bit more natural, more believable for me as well. So there are a few more things in this one that that land for me than Wrath of Khan. Still not a good film. Still not a film I'm going to really come back to again. I still don't really care about the characters that much, but it's a decent film. And yeah, it's my number 60. Coming in at number 59, right above that one, we have Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Also 2.5-star film. And honestly, the only thing that puts Voyage Home above Search for Spock is the entertainment here. If you want to argue that Search for Spock or even Wrath of Khan is a better made movie technically than Voyage Home is, I won't argue with you. But for me, this is one of those movies that's so bad it's not good, but entertaining. Like, I actually am entertained by how ridiculous and stupid the plot of this film is. I mean, we've gotten to the point where they literally don't know what else to do other than, hey, let's make this group of characters have to go find humpback whales in order to save their ship. Like, that is so stupid, bro. That's the dumbest, cheesiest, most ridiculous plot I've ever heard. If I was in the writing room when whoever pitched it, I would have laughed him out of that office, bro. But it kind of works because it's so ridiculous that I can actually kind of just sit back and be entertained by the ridiculousness of the movie. And just seeing these characters so out of place, being in a different time and, of Earth than what they're accustomed to, having to go back in the future and be, just out of time, out of place. It's ridiculous. It's cheesy. There's a lot of effects work that don't really hold up very well, but it's mildly entertaining. And I do think this one is more entertaining than Search for Spock. That's why I put this one a little bit above that movie, but still 2.5 stars. It's decent. Number 59 for me. Coming in at number 58, we have Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. 2.5-star film. It's decent. It's got some things going for it. It's got some things I don't really care about. It's really just kind of like, I don't know. It's meh. I don't hate the film, but I also don't invest with it to the level that I invest in some of the other movies in this franchise. I think it gets a little messy, a little over the top in a few places for me as well. Not a bad film, but they've certainly done better for me. A lot of really cool like costume and makeup design here with all the apes that they have working on here. So some cool stuff there, but yeah, overall it's decent. 2.5 stars. Number 58. Coming in at number 57, we had the original Transformers movie. Now, I'll just say, I saw this movie in theaters in 2007 when it came out, and at the time, I really enjoyed the Transformers movie. As a kid, watching the original Transformers trilogy, they were really cool movies at the time, and I think I saw all three of them in theaters, and I saw all 3 of them multiple times, around those 6 years with friends and stuff. Like they were cool movies to watch with your buddies, but over time they don't really hold up that well. Coming back to them as an adult, I see how they're appealing to kids, but man, watching it as an adult, some of the dialogue here, it screams elementary. Some of the dialogue sounds like it was written by an 8-year-old. It's just not very good dialogue. You don't really even get to your antagonist, Megatron, until 3/4 of the way into the film, and they bring him in just to defeat him. Like, he creates some plot in the 3rd act. He creates a cool fight scene, but as soon as they bring him in, they kind of just, they don't kill him, but he's kind of already defeated as soon as he comes in. So it's got some issues, a lot of filler in it as well, and some of that dialogue just does not hold up well for me. So Transformers, the original, comes in at 57. Again, decent film. Coming in at number 56, we have the most recent entry of all of these movies, which is, of course, Alien Romulus. Saw this movie a couple weeks ago in theaters, and I gotta say, I was kind of disappointed. From what I was seeing in the trailers, what I was hearing from people and seeing reviews of, I really had high hopes and I had high expectations going into this movie. Wanted to really love it, was hoping I was going to really love it, thinking I was going to really love it. And I just, I don't think it was very good. It's not a bad film. It's decent. It's 2.5 star tier for me. And it possibly could go up upon rewatches, possibly could go down on rewatches. I don't know. But after one watch in theaters on the big screen, 2.5 star films. I think you definitely could have cut out a lot of the runtime. I don't think anything and nothing, like what did that first act do significantly for the plot of the movie? We didn't need it. It didn't do anything for the story, for the plot. You really could have opened this movie up with the crew already in the ship, and then they find the vial, the species in space or wherever, bring it into their ship, and there you go. There's your plot. But having an entire first act on this planet where nothing significantly is happening, the only thing that's really happening is you're introducing us to the characters, which again, you could have just done already on the spaceship. I felt like the runtime could have really been condensed down. The 3rd act was also stretched out too long. You could have ended it with them, on the pod, looking back at the AI and the girl delivering her lines. They write off in credits. Like the whole, second ending to the movie. Again, what did it really do? Why was that needed? Did it do anything significantly for the film or for the story? No, it didn't. So again, a decent film. It definitely had some things going for it. In the directing, I thought the production design looked really cool. Cinematography looked really good. I loved the color patterns that they were using. I liked how they used the alien xenomorphs. It definitely had some things going for it, but I still just kind of found it as a kind of bland and decent film. And I also feel like it lacked that deeper meaning to it that the first 2 Alien movies had. So this movie didn't really have anything to say. So there you go. Decent film. It's my number 56. Coming in at number 55, we have Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. This is again, a 2.5 star film. Decent. I think Phantom Menace has things going for it, and it's got things really working against it. I know a lot of people would maybe even have this movie lower rated, but for me, my love for Star Wars plays into this movie being rated higher than what a lot of people have it. I love these characters. I love Obi-Wan. He's one of my favorite movie characters. I love Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. I absolutely love Darth Maul. Another one of my favorite characters, although he's criminally underused in this movie. I grant that, but the look of Darth Maul, the performance by Ray Park, the lightsaber duel with him and the two Jedi, specifically him and Obi-Wan at the end, badass stuff, man. The pod racing scene on Tatooine was really cool. Still holds up well to this day. Sounds cool, looks cool. Yeah, it has things going for it, but it's also got a lot of things working against it. Jar Binks, man, just one of the most annoying characters. George Lucas does not know how to write comedy. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people love American Graffiti. I could take or leave it. I don't think his writing of humor here works. He thinks he's funny with how he writes Jar Binks, but he's not, because what he thinks is funny actually comes across as really annoying and just dumb. Yeah, I could definitely do without Jar Binks in this movie. I also think, you know, he spends a lot of time of this movie focusing on trade federations, focusing on, you know, the Senate race, focusing on, you know, all these other like political schemes going on that nobody really cares about. Nobody comes to Star Wars movies to follow a Senate race. Nobody comes to Star Wars movies to follow, you know, separatist leaders and you know, the trade federation that's going on. Nobody gives a rat's anus about any of those topics. So why are you making a whole film that is following those 3 points, those 3 beats throughout the movie? Especially a movie that you outspokenly admit made for kids and made for toys. Well, George, I don't think 10-year-olds are really even going to know or be able to make sense out of what a trade federation even is. Like, I don't even think I was maybe like a late into my teenage years until I finally understood what the trade federation even was in Star Wars, you know, let alone when I was, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, has some things going for it, has some things working against it. Overall, again, as a big Star Wars fan, it has a lot of, you know, rewatch value to it. Decent film, number 55. Coming in at number 54, we have our first 3-star movie. So everything from here on up, I would consider a good film. And I would give a positive review and a positive rating to. So 54 out of 74 movies, 3 stars and up. That's a pretty good ratio, right? So number 54 for me is Predator 2. I like Predator 2. I do. It's entertaining. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of one of those fun, cheesy popcorn movies. This is the movie you turn off the lights in your house. You want to just relax, you know, take a load off, have some popcorn, have a drink, a beverage, just kick back and have some fun watching predators kill some city folk and watch them being hunted down by what's his name, Danny Glover, you know, fighting some predators. I'm game for that. Yeah, so fun movie. Is it on the level of the first one? Not by a long shot, in my opinion. But yeah, there's still, you know, a lot of fun to be had with Predator 2. So yeah, it's my number 54. Coming in at number 53, we have Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. 3-star movie. This one's kind of forgettable, but just know that I was more entertained by this one than the ones below it. I was a little more invested. I think it moved along a little better. Again, I don't really care about the characters, but the story, the plot felt more real, felt more of a genuine threat, felt more serious, moved along at a better pace, kept my attention a little bit more, has a little bit more rewatch value to it. So yeah, a good film, but still not one I'm probably going to come back to a lot. So Star Trek V is my number 53. Number 52, I have Transformers: The Last Knight. Again, this is one of those movies, kind of a guilty pleasure, dumb fun. That's what it is. Dumb fun. Coming in at 51, we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes. So I like Escape. I do. Escape was fun for me. It's got, you know, a lot of things that I love. I love the setting, for one. I like the tone of this movie. I like the characters. The plot worked really well. I think it pursued some interesting themes. An interesting concept story-wise. I like Escape quite a bit. Again, the makeup looked really good. Production design looked good. The ape acting was good. So yeah, Escape, solid movie. Number 51 for me. Coming in at number 50, we have Solo, a Star Wars story. A movie that would be quite a bit higher on my list if it wasn't for the lack of necessity. This movie is not needed at all. Like, we have a full character arc for Solo in the original Star Wars trilogy. He has a full character arc in those 3 movies. He goes on the hero's journey. His story is complete by the end of Return of the Jedi. So having a standalone Solo movie that takes place before the original trilogy with the character that we're introduced to as kind of a very arrogant, kind of deceitful character that goes on a hero's journey and gets developed over time. We're gonna all of a sudden try to make him have a complete story before his story. To me, it's just like, it's not needed. In fact, it kind of actually in a way hurts that original trilogy as far as Han's story goes. So yeah, if it was a film, or if it was a story that was needed for the character, I would have this quite a bit higher, because it is quite enjoyable. I have a great time with Solo. It's a lot of fun, very rewatchable. I love Woody Harrelson. I love Emilia Clarke. I love the plot in this movie. It's directed well by Ron Howard. It looks good. It's shot good. It sounds good. I thought that the acting from the guy who plays Han Solo is good. It's got a lot going for it, and it's still a 3-star film. It's still a good movie, and a movie that I enjoy. It's just what keeps it lower is that lack of necessity. It's just a movie that doesn't add anything for the saga. It's a movie that just feels very out of place. So for that, I had to deduct some points from it. But Solo, still 3-star film, and it's my number 50. Coming in at number 49, we have Terminator Salvation. This is, I believe, the 4th installment in the Terminator franchise. One with Christian Bale in it, which sounds appealing. Christian Bale, great actor, one of my favorites. The movie itself was good. Don't know that it's great. I don't know that holds up on multiple rewatches for me personally. Not a film that, I don't really have much of an emotional investment in. A film that kind of just, if I sit down to watch it, I know I'm going to like it. I'm going to have a good experience, but there's also issues I have with it, I won't get into a lot of it for the sake of time, but overall, as a movie, Terminator Salvation is solid. 3-star movie for me. Coming in at number 48, we have Transformers Dark of the Moon, the 3rd installment in the Transformers movie, the last movie to feature Shia LaBeouf. I like it. I like the tone in this movie. It's a little bit darker tone for a Transformers movie. I like that they actually develop Sam's character a little more in this one. We see him in a different place, put in a different situation at this point. They do some new things with his character, and he's in a new relationship now, new place in his life. And I think we also learn a few new things about the Autobots, and we also see them have to deal with a new theme in the movie. So I do think it's got things working for it, and I do like it, but it's also, it's also in some ways still kind of a cheese fest in some ways, but a good movie. It's rewatchable, it's entertaining, so it does its job. It gets in and out like a robber. So there you go. That's my number 48. Coming in at number 47, we have the original Men in Black. Obviously, with your 2 main guys, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. A lot of fun, entertaining. Saw this movie a lot as a kid. I've always liked it. It's never really resonated with me on like a deep level. I don't know that I have like any strong emotional attachment to the film, but it's a fun hour and a half of my time. I do like the chemistry between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. I think they work well together on screen. Very different characters, polar opposite personality wise, but I think they blend well, have good chemistry together on screen. That's a positive for me. The antagonist, the alien bad guy here, always just kind of really weird, kind of creepy character in a number of ways. So yeah, good movie. I like it. It's fun. There you go. Men in Black, number 47. Coming in at number 46, we have The Matrix Reloaded, the second Matrix movie. A movie that definitely has some issues in the visual effects department. The CGI fight and towards the back end of the movie with Keanu Reeves and the bad guy in the movie, and when he clones himself and Keanu has to fight off all the clones of the Hugo Weaving's character. It's like, yeah, not very good. Not very good effects work, man. Yeah, like it's bad. It's really bad. Like you can literally tell, like you can see the computer effects work in that fight. Like it looks like a video game. It just looks like a early 2000s PlayStation 2 video game in that fight scene. So yeah, visual effects definitely bring this movie down some for me. But I still think it does good in a number of other areas. Story-wise, character building, movement throughout the film, pacing. I still think it's got some things going for it. It's still a fun movie. And I'd still give it 3 stars. So that's my number 46. Coming in at number 43, we have Star Wars A New Hope. The original, the OG Star Wars movie. The one that started it all off. A movie that has a mad following by Star Wars fans. I'm a big Star Wars fan. But for me, New Hope I've never gotten really understood the appeal to this movie that so many people, other people have with this movie. It's good. I like it. Don't get me wrong. It's a 3-star film. I enjoy it. And especially for the time, it was way ahead of its time as far as world building, effects work, practical effects, stuff like that. But I don't know that it holds up all that well. Just from a story standpoint, we're not introduced to our main protagonist, Luke, until 15-20 minutes into the movie. I think Vader is also criminally underused in this movie. All he's doing is just taking orders from other people, choking a couple guys, and yelling at some other guys. We don't really get to see, and then he beats a really old Ben Kenobi in this movie. That also is one of the worst, maybe the worst lightsaber duel in the Star Wars saga, at least in the live action movies. I get that it was the first lightsaber duel. I understand that, but you still have to deal with it. You still have to watch it. And it's especially, where that they get to in later films, episode 1, episode 3, even episode 2, and even 5 and 6 have much better lightsaber choreography in them than this first one did. So you still have to watch it. You understand it's the first one, but you still have to watch it. And knowing what these two characters are capable of, yeah, it's just really weak, a really weak duel there for me personally. So yeah, a good film. I think it's also got some pacing issues. It's got some writing issues for me. I don't think we needed to spend as much time with C-3PO or R2 as we spent with them, especially given that they don't really add anything to the plot of this film. They're cool characters, but what do they do for the characters? What do they do for the plot? And not a whole lot, really, if you're being honest. So yeah, probably could have cut out a lot of their stuff. They could have just been kind of side characters, kind of the way they were in Phantom Menace. That's one thing I think Phantom Menace did right. they didn't just spend a whole lot of time with R2 and C-3PO with like side characters that didn't really play much of a role in the plot other than obviously Jar. But even Jar played more of a significant role in the plot of that film than 3PO or R2 did in New Hope. So yeah, I think they probably should have just been side characters that you were introduced to. We see them, we know they're there, but that's about it. Coming in at number 44, we have Alien vs. Predator, the original. 3-star film, fun, cool. Got to see him throw down. There you go. Number 43, we have Star Trek Insurrection. Fun, cool. There you go. Coming in at number 42, we have Planet of the Apes, the remake. You thought I was going to go with the original, didn't you? No, this is a Tim Burton remake from 2001. I mean, I like it. You know, a lot of people hate it. A lot of people have it really low on their 8 ranking movies. I like it. You know, I thought the world building was pretty cool actually by Burton. The production design actually looked really good. The costume design, the makeup all looked really good. Sound was pretty good. I thought the performance, I mean, I felt like the actors were trying. Mark Wahlberg's entertaining. Tim Roth is really good as the antagonist. It's got things going for it, man. Is it, you know, revolutionary, you know, masterpiece of cinema? No, it's got issues. I'm aware of that, but at the end of the day, it's a fun film. I can watch it and be entertained for 2 hours. So yeah, it's solid to me. It's, you know, 3-star film. So that's my number 42. Coming in at number 41, we have the best of the Men in Black movies for me, which is Men in Black 3. The only one I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, I mean, I maybe in the minority here that actually prefers Part 3 over the original. Not by much. I mean, this one would be a 3.5-star film for me. So it is a tier up from the first one, but it's still not a movie I would say is a great film, but I do think they're doing more in this one than they do in the first one as far as storytelling, as far as plot. I love Josh Brolin. I think he's a really good actor. He adds a lot of talent to the screen as well. The acting is just overall better in this movie, in my opinion. It's got more heart to it. I just think Men in Black 3 is doing more than the first one did. So, and it's, you know, it's a really entertaining film. So Men in Black 3 is my number 41 and 3.5-star film. So starting with Planet of the Apes, 2001, these are now 3.5-star films. So yeah, the Planet of the Apes remake, 3.5. Men in Black 3's 3.5. My next one, number 40, Transformers Age of Extinction. Our introduction to Mark Wahlberg's character in this franchise. Another 3.5-star film. Really good visual effects here. Good movement to the plot, to the story. I think it also has some heart with, you know, Mark Wahlberg and his daughter trying to be a better dad. He's got to learn a few things along the way. He's got to learn responsibility. I like the new characters that we're introduced to in this movie. It's actually got a thematic theme that it's following throughout the movie. So for me, I actually do quite enjoy Age of Extinction. I think it's a bit long. I think you could trim it down some. I don't think it needs to be touching 3 hours, but yeah, overall, it's solid. I like it. 3.5-star film. Coming in at number 39, we have Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Another 3.5-star film. This one is fun. I like the setting, you know. I enjoy some of the characters we're introduced to. I like some of the themes we follow. The storytelling works for me. It's entertaining. Yeah, it's fun. I think it's got something to say. I think it explores, you know, a new story for these characters. It's doing something new, creative. It looks good. The production design, all that stuff is good. So yeah, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, solid 3.5-star film, number 39 for me. Coming in at number 38, we have Star Wars The Last Jedi, a movie that has gone up consistently upon multiple viewings. Saw this one in theaters, and at the time I was just kind of indifferent on it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I was kind of just like, okay, that was whatever. Better than Force Awakens, but I still wasn't all that raw about it. But over time, this movie's actually grown on me. And as more people tend to hate this movie, it actually makes me love this movie more and more. The more hate that I hear people throwing at it, the more it makes me love this movie. Because a lot of the criticisms that people throw at The Last Jedi are invalid criticisms. They're criticisms that actually properly belong to Force Awakens. Almost all of the criticisms that I've heard of Last Jedi actually belong to Force Awakens, but people don't throw those criticisms at Force Awakens because people don't like Rian Johnson. So let's just trash this movie because it wasn't J.J. Abrams made, and they kill off Luke. And so let's trash this movie and give this one all the criticisms. For one, Luke was going to die. I mean, no one's immortal in the Star Wars lore. No one's immortal. Everyone dies. Yoda dies. Obi-Wan dies. Vader dies. Everyone dies. Obviously, Luke is going to die. So why is that an issue that Luke dies in The Last Jedi? Did you think he was never going to die? I mean, come on. That doesn't bother me at all that Luke dies. How is his death used, though? That's the question. Does his death mean something? And I would argue it absolutely does have meaning to it. The character actually has an arc in the film. He learns something along the way. He finds himself along the way. His death actually brings victory and secures life for the Rebel Alliance. It does something for the movie. It's got meaning to it. It's got heart to it. It's also an incredibly cool power that we see by Luke using the Force projection that we haven't seen anyone else use in Star Wars, Jedi-wise. I think we've seen the Emperor use it a couple times, but Jedi-wise, we hadn't seen anyone use Force projection. So Luke using that shows how powerful he had become as a Jedi. So I think it's actually doing a lot of cool stuff in the film. It has issues. Finn absolutely should have died on that fake Battle of Hoth battle that they were having. Again, don't really care about the Finn character. He just doesn't add anything to the franchise. Nothing significantly. He's there for a lot of humor, but the humor doesn't work. It doesn't land for me. So it's not perfect. It's got issues. Again, issues with Rey just being able to master the art of being a Jedi without formal training completely undermines the Jedi training purpose. But other criticisms I've heard of this movie, making Luke afraid of the dark side or of training Kylo, that criticism again belongs to The Force Awakens. It's The Force Awakens that introduces that plot idea. Go back and watch Force Awakens with your listening ears on. Listen to the dialogue. You'll find it in that movie. That's the movie that introduces that into the franchise. So Last Jedi, by default, has its hands tied. Because if it's going to have any continuity with Force Awakens, it has to take that plot point for Luke and explore that. But what I think it does, it actually makes fun of Force Awakens. It's exposing the just ridiculous, horrible decision making of Force Awakens and kind of mocking that. But then what it does is it redeems that at the end. So you may disagree, that's fine. But for me, I actually do really like Last Jedi. It's a visually very beautiful film, very beautifully shot film. So yeah, I really like Last Jedi, a 3.5 star film, number 38 for me. Coming in at number 37, we have Star Trek The Motion Picture, the original Star Trek movie. Again, I don't really care about the characters, but the tone, I like the tone a lot better. I like the theme better. I think it takes itself more serious. It moves along at a better pace for me. And yeah, I just think it's a better film than the ones below it. So 3.5 star film, good film. I would come back to this one again in the future, but yeah, There you go. Star Trek motion picture, number 37. Number 36, the original Hunger Games. Also 3.5-star movie. Solid film. I like it. I don't think it was... I think it spent a little too much time trying to make me invest in the romance between what's her name? Katniss. Trying to make me invest too much between Katniss and Peter. They can't just make him have normal names. Peter. He's Peter. Whatever. 3.5-star film. There you go. Hunger Games, number 36. Number 35, The Matrix Resurrections. The most recent Matrix movie. Didn't think I was going to like it. Gotta confess, didn't think I was going to like it. And I was proven wrong. I actually did enjoy this movie quite a bit. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it for you, but I would recommend it. I do think they explore some interesting ideas with this movie. I think a lot of the action still looks really cool. The pacing is good. It looks aesthetically pleasing. And yeah, I did actually really enjoy the movie. So Resurrections, number 35. Coming in number 34, we have Terminator Genisys. Another one of those movies that I didn't think I was going to like all that much and was pleasantly surprised with. It's maybe a little bit too convoluted. I think it may be tackling a little too much, taking on maybe a little too many things all at once. It feels a little crammed at times. But overall, I still think it explores some interesting ideas. It's trying to be creative. I respect the ingenuity. Again, I like Emilia Clarke. Not so much the guy who plays the younger version of Kyle Reese. But yeah, overall, still a really solid Terminator movie. 3.5 stars. We're never going to get a Terminator movie that's on par with, those first two, especially the second one. Those days are done. That was lightning in a bottle. But the other ones, if you can kind of just accept them for what they are, I think you can have fun with them. And that's what Genisys is for me. Good, fun Terminator movie. Number 34. Coming in at number 33, we have Star Wars Attack of the Clones, part 2 in the saga. 3.5-star film. A movie that I see towards the bottom or at the bottom of a lot of people's lists, and honestly, I don't get it. I think people hate this movie because it's popular to hate it. For some reason, there's been a huge just kind of cultural criticism and hatred of this movie that I think people just buy into now because it's the norm. You have to hate on Attack of the Clones because that's just what society has accepted. But when you actually push back on that and you question it, why do you hate this movie? Well, because the romance, man, it's bad romance between Anakin and Padme. Okay, that's 10 minutes of the movie. What else you got for me? 10 minutes of the movie, some dialogue and some bad romance, granted, and bad romance dialogue between Anakin and Padme, which ultimately makes up about 10 minutes of the movie. Does that really make this film the worst Star Wars movie because of those 10 minutes? Is it really that bad? Does the rest of the movie not really have anything else going for it? Come on, people. I think people put way too much criticism on that particular point and just turned a blind eye to everything positive that this movie has going for it. Like the actual storytelling. This movie, unlike Phantom Menace, actually is doing something for the saga. It's actually got something to say. It's actually pursuing a story that is coherent, that is adding development to the saga, adding development to the characters. We see that the characters themselves have an arc along the way. We get a really cool action scene in the third act on Geonosis. We get a really cool fight scene at the end between Dooku and Yoda. There's a lot to like about this movie. The pacing is really good. The chemistry, the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin is really good. So yeah, this movie has a lot going for it. It's not perfect. There are some valid criticisms, the romance, some of the dialogue, the fact that we're not even introduced to our antagonist, Dooku, until halfway through the film. And even then, you don't really buy that he's a legit antagonist. But yeah, so it's not perfect. I'm not sitting here saying this is a, cult classic, but I do think it doesn't deserve the amount of hate that it gets from people. So I really enjoy it, and yeah, it's number 33 for me. Coming in at number 32, we have Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Again, don't really care about the characters that much, but everything else around it I think works. The pacing is good. I like the villain here. I think it's exploring a good theme. I think it's actually developing some of the characters. It's got something to say. There's movement to it. I think it's well made. It's just, again, that initial original Star Trek run of films in the original movie series, the characters themselves, I don't invest that much with them. I don't care. I don't like those original characters that much, or at least the versions of those characters. But overall, it's still a really good movie. I mean, I'd still give it 3.5 stars. It's number 32 for me. Coming in at number 31, we have Star Trek Generations. The first Star Trek movie with a new cast here. We get Patrick Stewart. I think it's his name, right? Patrick Stewart as Captain Pillard, who I quite frankly like a lot better than William Shatner as Captain Kirk. I much prefer Captain Pillard over William Shatner's version of Captain Kirk. So he's definitely an improvement. I like Data more than I like Spock. So Data is an improvement. The other characters are an improvement. It's just overall, I like the characters quite a bit more in, the next generation of Star Trek movies. I don't know that the plot is as good as Undiscovered Country, but the characters are much improved for me. So that's what kind of gives it the edge there over Part 6. 3.5 star film, number 31. Coming in at number 30, we have Terminator Dark Fate. Yeah, another movie that I hear take a lot of criticism from people. Don't like it, but I quite enjoyed it. I like where they take Sarah Connor in the movie, seeing her kind of in this new place, new state of her life, post everything that's happened to this point, post John, post Judgment Day, all this stuff. I think they actually give her some strong development. And the women character that they, is in this movie, some people might call it woke. I don't think it's woke because it's not at the expense of the male characters in this movie. That's the thing. It doesn't degrade or belittle the male characters in order to push and empower the women. So you still get badass women in this movie without having to degrade and soften and weaken the men in the movie. So I don't think it's woke at all. I enjoyed it. I think it's got some heart to it. It moves well. 3.5 star film. It's number 30 for me. Number 29, I have Bumblebee. I think the 6th installment in the Transformers franchise. I like this movie. I like B as a character. He's probably my favorite Transformer. I know a lot of people love Optimus, and Optimus is pretty awesome. But I think B would probably take it for me. I just love his loyalty to, Sam in that original trilogy, and then to the girl in this one. He's just, he's that solid, that loyal soldier man that he's going to be with you come hell or high water. I love the relationship with him and the girl in this movie. It's got emotional, it's got a heart to it in that third act. It's, it's a good movie. I think it's solid. It's not perfect. It lacks a few things, but overall I think it's a solid Transformers movie. So yeah, it's number 29 for me. Coming at number 28, we have The Predator, Shane Black version, The Predator. I really enjoy this movie. I think some of the humor lands for me by Keegan. I love seeing the guy, what's his name? The guy that played the Punisher in the 2004 movie. I love seeing him. I like him as an actor. I like the tone of this movie. I thought that I like the look of the Predator, some cool kills. It's fun. Again, this is another one of those movies that It's got issues, but if you can kind of put those behind you, overlook them, and just take the movie for what it is, I think you can have a lot of fun with it. And I do. I like Shane Black's tone. I like his, the atmosphere, the setting, the characters here. They work for me. So yeah, The Predator, 3.5-star films, number 28. Coming in at number 27, we have Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. This is my favorite of the Transformers movie. And this may be a hot take, but we're going up to 4-star tier level. So, 27 movies on this list are 4 stars and higher for me. This being the first 4-star movie on this list. I love this movie. I don't apologize for that. A lot of people have this towards the bottom of their list. That's fine. I can argue my case for Revenge of the Fallen. For one, I think it develops Sam better. I think it develops his girlfriend better. I think it uses Optimus Prime a whole heck of a lot better than the first one does. It uses Megatron a whole heck of a lot better than the first one does. It moves better than the first one does. The pacing is better. The dialogue's a lot better. It actually feels more like an adult was writing the dialogue here than a third grader. Yeah, it suffers some in the script. There's a writer strike. They didn't really have a script going for this film. You can tell that in certain places in this film, but some of those are forgivable for me, and I can kind of look over them and just enjoy it from the experience I'm having. The fun, the characters, the action, the movement. I can kind of overlook some of the script issues for me personally. So yeah, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is my favorite of the Transformers movies. Let me know if that's a hot take in the comment section. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but yeah, 4-star film for Revenge of the Fallen. Number 27. Coming in at number 26, we have The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. I like it. It's a great film. It does a lot of really good stuff. But there were also just a few things missing for me that I don't know that they fully connected with. Katniss' friend, the guy with the black hair, I forget his name. I didn't care for how they ended their relationship and their story. I thought it was really weak, really kind of lazy writing there for me. It's a great film. It's a 4-star film, but there are a few things that were a little disappointing for me in closing out that original run of movies. So Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is my number 26. Right above it, number 25, I have The Hunger Games Catching Fire, the second movie in the franchise. Great film. It's not so much that this movie bothers me. It's just that there's a couple in the series that do more for me. So that's kind of how I would describe Catching Fire. Great film. I think it comes together all together from a technical side of things, emotional side of things, the rewatch side of things. All of those come together and make for a great film for me. There you go. That's Catching Fire. Number 25. Number 24, I have Star Trek Beyond. Really enjoyed it. Closing out the new Star Trek trilogy. I liked it. I love the characters a lot more in the new trilogy than I did in the original run of movies. All the versions of the characters are much improved. Captain Kirk, played by Chris Pine, so much better than William Shatner. Spock, the guy who plays Spock, actually has some charisma, actually brings some personality to that character. It's got a lot more heart to it. It's paced well. I just think it suffers some in the writing for me personally, but as far as the directing, the characters go, all that, great stuff. Number 23, I have Prey, the most recent of the Predator movies. Great film. Loved what they did with it. Loved the tone. Loved the atmosphere. Enjoyed the characters. Great kills. Great film. Number 23. Number 22, I have Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The first of the Caesar trilogy movies of the Planet of the Apes. Great movie, man. Loved the direction that they went with, kind of reviving the franchise. Love seeing Caesar's story and him have kind of go on this arc, this journey. You feel for that guy, man. They really do a great job emotionally investing you with Caesar as a character. I thought James Franco does a great job. His relationship with Caesar is very believable. Great direction in it. Moves well. Great score. Yeah, great film, man. It's my number 22. Coming in at 21, I have Prometheus. Great film. Again, great characters, great story. It's got something to say. Philosophically, morally, the characters are pretty good. The direction is pretty good. Score's pretty good. Great film. Prometheus, number 21. Number 20 might be another bit of a hot take, but I'm going with Star Trek Nemesis. Yeah, the last of the new generation Star Trek movies, Captain Pollard. For me, I just feel like the threat of the plot here feels a lot more like a genuine threat. And a lot of it, I think, comes down to tone and performance and character. I think Tom Hardy plays a much more believable antagonist than Khan, for example. I buy his threat. Like I buy into what he's doing. I think he brings a lot more charisma to the screen as well. I'm much more interested in him. I'm much more glued to the screen when he's on screen. The threat feels more real. The tone feels more serious, darker. The stakes feel higher as well. I enjoy the characters here. It works a lot better for me than Wrath of Khan does. So, yeah, Nemesis is my number 20. Coming in at number 19, I have the original Terminator by James Cameron. Yeah, a great film, man. This is the one that introduced us to these characters, introduced us to Sarah Connor, introduced us to the T-800, introduced us to, Kyle Reese. Great film, great story to it, great script, very good movement, great pacing. It's a great film. Everything comes together, works well, still holds up for the most part. I do think there are some moments with the visual effects I don't know hold up all that well, but overall as a film, it still absolutely works. It's a great movie. To me, it doesn't reach T2 level. Yeah, T2 is something special. This is still a great film. I just don't know that it's as entertaining. It's not as epic. It's not as emotionally impactful. It doesn't hit as hard emotionally as Terminator 2. It's not quite as rewatchable as Terminator 2. Doesn't resonate as much as Terminator 2. I don't think it's quite as well made as Terminator 2. But it's still a great film, still a must watch, and yeah, still a classic as far as I'm concerned. So Terminator is my number 19. Coming in at number 18, we have The Matrix. The original Matrix, 1999. Yeah, just, another classic, man. A film that kind of changed the game. Film that inspired a lot of those type of sci-fi action movies that would follow. Did some really cool stuff. Some great fighting choreography here. Great visual effects. A really good story. Great characters that are fully developed here. And honestly, The Matrix, in my opinion, could have just been a standalone. I mean, I don't think you really needed anything after the original, but there was room to explore more stories. But honestly, the original Matrix is a classic and could, I think, stand on its own. It's number 18 for me. Coming in at number 17, we have Star Trek First Contact. Another great 4-star movie. It's my favorite of the Next Generation line of Star Trek films. Everything just works here. Great character moments, character development for the characters, great action, great visual effects work. Fun movie. It's very rewatchable. It's just a great film. Just a great Star Trek movie. Really enjoyed it. Loved the tone. Legit threat by the villains here. Yeah, a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Coming in at number 16, we have Star Wars Return of the Jedi. This is our first 4.5 star tier movie, so we're going up another tier to another class here. Movies that just teeter on that 5-star border, not quite the 5-star level, but better than 4-star level. So yeah, Return of the Jedi is a 4.5 star film for me. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I make no apologies about that. This movie, the third act of Return of the Jedi, man, I'll put that up against anything. The storytelling in that third act, the emotional payoff in that third act, the way that third act is shot, the way it's directed, the performances, just that third act is in my opinion, one of the best third acts of any film. Love that third act. Even the second act is pretty good. I don't have too big of a problem with what are they called? Come on, Clayton, you know this. With the little bear creatures on the planet. Anyways, I don't have too big. They bother some people. They don't really bother me. They're a little cheesy, a little goofy. I get it, but they're also kind of entertaining, kind of fun to watch. I like Han's story in this one. Leia gets some development, but for me, what keeps this movie from hitting that 5-star level is the first act here. I feel like is kind of out of place. I mean, you have Luke coming in to rescue Han and Leia and CP. With the C-3PO. But what was he going to do? Was he just going to leave R2 and 3PO there? Like, that made no sense. Like, his rescue pitch to Jabba the Hutt to get Han and Leia back made absolutely no sense. And it was very out of character so that part just doesn't really vibe well with me. And why Luke didn't just pull out his lightsaber and kill Jabba in the first place, could have avoided that whole plot controversy in that first act. Because some people might be, well, it's not the Jedi way. The thing is, he pulls his lightsaber out anyways to rescue Han and Leia. He ends up killing Jabba. Well, Leia ends up killing Jabba, but that was his plan all along. So if you decided to do that, why not do that in the beginning? And you could have avoided that whole scenario from happening. So that first act is a bit messy for me. It felt like they were fumbling the football, but then they secured it in the second act and then took it to the end zone in the third act and scored a touchdown. But yeah, that first act for me just doesn't quite hold up for me the way I wanted it to. But man, that third act is just a banger of bangers. So yeah, Return of the Jedi, 4.5 star film. It's number 16 for me. Coming in number 15, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the most recent Apes movie, and another one that just came out, I think this year, right? Maybe last year. Really good, man. I really enjoyed this movie. Had fun with it. Thought the pacing was good. I liked the new characters that we were introduced to in this film. Thought it had some heart to it. Good tension, legit threat. And I enjoyed seeing the aftermath of Caesar, like the post-Caesar story and how his death affected everybody. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I like this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. So yeah, I just don't know that it quite is going to carry the rewatch value for me to hit that 5-star tier. But yeah, I mean, and I also don't know that it quite resonates with me emotionally to hit that 5-star tier. But it absolutely, it's a great film, and I loved Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, 4.5 star film. Number 14, I have my favorite of the Hunger Game movies, The Hunger Game Mockingjay Part 1. I do think this is the best of that franchise. I think it has the most heart. I think it has the most rewatch value. I think the characters are at their best. The performances are at their best. The script is at its best. I'm most engaged with this story and with these characters in part one. So yeah, that it takes the cake for me for the Hunger Game franchise. Coming in at number 13, we have War of the Planet of the Apes. The second Apes movie by director Matt Reeves, who also directed my favorite movie of all time. Y'all should know what that is. But yeah, I love this movie. Great movie, man. Absolutely hits emotionally. I think this one definitely has the most heart to it. I think it has the most emotional impact. I know some people may argue Dawn has that because of what happens with Caesar and dude, my mind is blanking right now on names. Caesar. Anyways, yeah, War for me, it just, dude, it hits, man. It hits hard on that emotional level, man. It's a very somber movie, very somber tone all the way through this film. It does have a satisfying, rewarding payoff in the third act, but it's a great film, man. The score is just so good. The directing by Reeves is just top notch. The script is great. I love Woody Harrelson as the antagonist. A lot of emotion to this film. It's just, again, for me, what keeps it from hitting that 5-star rating is the rewatch value. I don't know, because this is such a somber film, it's not necessarily an experience, an emotional experience that I want to come back to a lot. So it doesn't quite have that rewatch value to hit that 5-star level for me. But 4.5-star movie for War for the Planet of the Apes. Great film. Love it. Coming in at number 12, Alien Covenant. Very underrated and underappreciated alien movie, in my opinion. I think Ridley Scott gets the closest in tone to his original Alien movie with Covenant. I think Covenant also has a very deep meaning to it. I think a lot of people miss. I think it has a lot to say about the nature of man and our relationship with God or higher power. I think it has a lot to say about science and the lack of faith. I think it's got a lot to say. And I think people miss that a lot with this movie because there's not a whole lot of aliens, and I just want aliens. I don't care about story. I don't care about message. I just want a lot of aliens. Okay, well, there are other alien movies that provide that for you, but for me, character and story is what I care most about. And this one, I think, has both in spades. Great characters, great performances, and a great story that's worth following for me. So Alien Covenant, 4.5-star film, comes in at number 12. Number 11, we have this Star Trek remake from 2009. 4.5-star film. Love this movie. I love the characters, man. I love the performances. I think the characters are much better written in this film than in that original run of movies. I think the performances are a lot better. They're handled a lot better. I'm invested with them a lot more. And the story works for me as well. Seeing the origin story for these characters, seeing Captain Kirk actually have an arc, have to learn something along the way, have that dose of humility. Yeah, I loved the Star Trek 09 film. One of the main things though that again keeps it from hitting that 5-star rating were the throwbacks to Spock. When, like, to me, it's like, if you have to bring in past characters into your film, for me, it almost feels like you don't have enough faith or enough confidence in your own movie to leave it as is. Like, it almost feels like you feel like you need to bring in past characters in order to make your film good. But you don't, because what you have is already great, a great film. You don't need to bring in, they could have found a better route to bring Kirk and Spock, together, but they could have had them be friends just through their experience and through, having to bunker down in the foxhole together, breaking bread together. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. So, but overall, great film. It's my number 11. Moving into my top 10 on this list, coming in at number 10, original Planet of the Apes. Yes, a great film. I love this movie. Very rewatchable. I think it's definitely got an emotional punch to it. I love Charlton Heston as an actor. I think he does a great job in this movie. I love the production design. The costumes look great. And it's a movie that has a very deep story to it. Very well written. I think it's got a lot to say as well. And if you miss the message or the meaning here, I would just encourage you to go back, rewatch it, just with an open mind and think philosophically about what this movie is saying, about man, about God, about science, about faith, about all those things. I think if you watch it through that lens, you'll have actually a really great experience with this movie. I love this film. It's my second favorite in the franchise. 4.5-star movie, number 10 for me. Coming in at number 9, we have the original Predator. Movie I've reviewed on my channel. It's a lot of fun. It's just a great film. Very manly, masculine, energy producing film. A movie that every man should watch at some point in his life. Every man should watch Predator. Just to, again, bring that masculine energy out of you. But I won't spend too much time on that. I've reviewed that on my channel, given my thoughts on it. Great film, number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have Aliens by James Cameron, the sequel to the original. I love it. 4.5-star movie. You have people that are Alien fans. You have people that are more Aliens fans. I personally, as a fan of horror, the horror genre, horror being, kind of like my favorite genre, I prefer a more horror tone to a movie like Alien, to the Alien franchise. And to me, I feel I get more of that in the original than in this one. Also, the thing that keeps this movie from being at 5, it's a 5-star movie for a lot of people. I get that. It's a great movie. I love it. But for me, the way that they portrayed the Marines in this movie really bother me. I mean, these Marines, you couldn't find a more incompetent, whiny group of Marines in a movie than in Aliens. I mean, Bill Paxton, he's complaining every scene of this movie. He's got something to whine and piss and moan about. It's like, dude, you're a Marine. Soldier up, bro. Like, why are you complaining this much about every little thing? I just don't buy it. I don't buy that these Marines would be acting like this. I don't buy that these Marines would be this incompetent. I mean, Ripley has to show them and teach them how to strategize to take down an alien. Like, bro, you're Marines. Why are you having to learn from a woman, non-military woman, how to strategize for combat? What, like, that makes no sense to me. That is what bothers me with Aliens. That's my biggest criticism. That's what keeps it from hitting that 5-star tier for me. I don't buy it. I don't like it. And it's annoying. So overall, great movie. It's a classic. It's a must watch. Great sequel. Definitely more action driven than the first one, but still a horror movie, a sci-fi movie, a horror movie, an action movie, all wrapped in one. So Aliens, 4.5-star film. It's my number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have, and I'll just say all 7 of these, my top 7 are all 5-star films. So if you want to, if you would arrange these top 7 differently, have at it, man. All 7 of these are 5-star movies. They're all perfection as far as I'm concerned. Number 7, I have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I love Rogue One. I saw it multiple times in theaters. It was such a relief from the Force Awakens. I think Last Jedi had already come out at this point. I could be wrong. I think this came out after Last Jedi, or was this before Last? Anyways, nonetheless, I love this movie. I loved it in cinema. I loved it on rewatch ever since. Great movie. They get it right. They use Vader right. This is maybe the best version of Vader that we've gotten on the big screen. Loved how Vader was used. Loved the story that actually had sacrifice. It had meaning to it. There was an emotional payoff in this film that if you can invest with the characters, which I did, absolutely pays off for you and it hits. I think it's a movie about hope. It's got a message to it about, not giving up hope, fighting against tyranny, putting your foot down, knowing even if you go into battle, knowing that you're going to lose, if the cause is still worth it, then go for it. Take your chances. Go out meaningfully, and I love this movie, man. I love the characters. I love the story. It's got emotional payoff. It's super rewatchable. It's got moments of levity. And I love the world building. It's a great film. Rogue One's my number 7. Number 6, I have my favorite Star Trek movie, which is Star Trek Into Darkness. To me, this is a perfect Star Trek film. I think it's got everything. It's got a great character arc for Captain Kirk. He learns a lot along the way. He learns from his past mistake that he made earlier in the movie. He learns from that in the third act. It has an emotional impact when his leader dies. I think the Admiral guy dies. He acted as the father figure in Kirk's life. So when he RIPs, it has that emotional payoff. So it's got everything you want. It has the emotional payoff, super rewatchable, very well made, well shot. It looks beautiful. The pacing is great. The characters are all well used. Everything in there has a purpose. It has meaning. It's tightly edited. It's well structured. It's a perfect film. It's a perfect Star Trek movie. I'll argue this one over any Star Trek movie with anybody. So I think this one has everything going for it. Love Into Darkness. My favorite Star Trek movie. 5 stars, man. Number 6 on my list. Coming into number 5, top 5, we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. My favorite Apes movie. Directed by Matt Reeves. Again, it has everything, man. It's got the emotional payoff. It's got the rewatch value. It's got the characters. It's got the story. It's a blast. Love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Great score to it as well. Great character moments, character writing. Just a great film. A great film. Coming in at number 4, we have Alien, the original Alien by Ridley Scott, a movie I've talked a lot about on my channel. A great horror movie, one of the best horror movies of all time. Great characters, great story, great acting, great tone, great everything. 5-star film. Aliens, number 4. Number 3, we have Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The movie that I would probably argue in my mind is the single greatest sci-fi action movie of all time. Just pure action driven. It's the best. I mean, it's next level. It's next level. Yeah. T2 is something special, man. It still holds up well today. 30 years later, it still looks good. It still holds up. The T-1000, just a phenomenal antagonist villain. Great performances by everybody. A great score. Great beat. Yeah, great heart, meaning, story to it. Look into fatherhood and how we as humans, we as men have failed as fathers to be the fathers that we need to be, the fathers that we should be. We just see how this machine is a better father than the human than humans are. And, you know, and then the human father that should have been there for John. And yeah, man, it's just T2 is something special, bro. 5-star classic. This is a must watch, an absolute must watch. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 1 and number 2, both Star Wars movies. The only 2 I haven't mentioned. These 2 could okay, I'll just go ahead and lay it out. My number 2 is Empire Strikes Back, and my number 1 is Revenge of the Sith. Is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. It's the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in cinema. I saw this when it came out in 2005, and just, dude, you talk about a great theater experience. Until The Dark Knight came out 3 years later, this was the best theater experience of my life. Still one of my favorite theater experiences. Loved this movie. Still holds up. It has incredible rewatch value to it. I could throw this on right now and just be amped all the way through. Great characters, man. Some of my favorite characters, you know, Obi-Wan at his best. Great emotional payoff in the 3rd act. Much better acting by Hayden Christensen as Anakin in this movie. The acting is good. The score is great. The action is well handled. Yeah, just great lightsaber choreography in this movie. The best lightsaber fight we've ever seen on screen. It's just stupid good, bro. Just stupid good. And then Empire's right behind it. Empire Strikes Back. I'll say this. Anyone who wants to argue that Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, objectively the best, no argument from me. I would probably agree with you. I think that as far as technically, from a technical standpoint, Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. But my favorite Star Wars movie is Revenge of the Sith. Just for what it means to me, the nostalgia I have with it, the enjoyment I have with it to this day, the rewatch value, the emotional payoff that's there, just everything it's got going for it. It's my favorite. So in Empire, I mean, nothing more to be said about Empire. It's a classic, great film, one of my favorites of all time. Both these are 2 of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, there you go, guys. Long video, I know. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, a lot of movies to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Have you seen all of these movies? What is your favorite of all these movies? Do you have a certain franchise of these 10 that is your favorite franchise? Let me know anything and everything in the comment section. I'll ask that you be respectful about it. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, kick it and rock on.